We always talk about what walked the earth during the time of the dinosaurs. T-Rex, Velociraptor. But what about what soared above them? Because while the land trembled under the feet of giant predators, the skies belonged to monsters. Monsters with wingspans longer than fighter jets. Monsters with beaks like spears. Monsters that hunted from above and vanished into the clouds. They weren't birds. They weren't dinosaurs. They were pterosaurs, and some were the largest animals to ever fly. You've heard of dragons. Now meet the real thing. Chapter 1. Not dinosaurs, not birds, but something else. Let's clear up a myth. Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs, and they weren't birds either. They were flying reptiles, evolved separately from both. Their wings weren't made of feathers, but of skin and muscle, stretched between a massively elongated finger and their body. They were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight, millions of years before birds. And while early pterosaurs were the size of hawks or crows, something terrifying happened by the late Cretaceous. They started getting huge. Chapter 2, Quetzalcoatlus, the sky god. Its name means feathered serpent god, and it lived up to the legend. Quetzalcoatlus northropi was the largest known flying animal to ever exist. With a wingspan stretching over 36 feet, 11 meters, roughly the size of a small passenger plane, it stood as tall as a giraffe when on land. But the most terrifying part? It could fly, using massive chest muscles, hollow bones, and a unique launch system, likely pushing off with all four limbs like a vampire bat. Quetzalcoatlus could take off and glide for miles, possibly even across continents. But it wasn't just a glider. It was a hunter. Scientists believe it stalked open plains and coastal regions, picking off small dinosaurs, baby animals, or carrion using its long, toothless beak. Imagine a giraffe-sized stork with the soul of a vulture. That's Quetzalcoatlus. Chapter 3, Hatzegopteryx, the apex predator of an island lost in time. Now let's travel to what is now Romania. Back then it was an island, and on this isolated land, something horrifying took flight. Hatzegopteryx. Unlike Quetzalcoatlus, Hatzegopteryx had a thicker skull, a shorter neck, and a more robust body, meaning it may have been less of a long-distance flyer and more of a terrestrial stalker. On Hatzeg Island, where many dinosaurs were miniaturized due to island dwarfism, Hatzegopteryx had little competition and may have been the top predator. Picture this. A 30-foot wingspan monster silently folding its wings, walking on all fours like a demon crane, and suddenly snapping up prey with terrifying precision. No claws, no roar, just a silent strike from the sky. And no one saw it coming. Chapter 4. How did these giants fly? Here's the question that haunts paleontologists. How could something this big fly at all? Modern birds top out at much smaller sizes. Today's largest flying bird, the wandering albatross, has a wingspan of just under 12 feet. But Quetzalcoatlus was 3 times that. The answer lies in evolution. Their bones were incredibly light, thin, hollow, and full of air sacs. Their muscles were highly efficient. Their wings had a unique shape optimized for soaring, and they likely launched using all 4 limbs, not just 2 like birds. It wasn't easy. Flight at that size is always a trade-off. But the sky was a wide, open hunting ground, and nature found a way. Still, we don't fully understand how they maneuvered. Could they flap for long distances? Could they truly launch from flat ground? Or were they more like giant gliders? The physics still puzzle us. And maybe that's part of what makes them feel otherworldly. Chapter 5, The Killing Tools of the Air. Unlike birds of prey today, many giant pterosaurs didn't have talons or claws. They had beaks, long, sharp, sometimes toothless, sometimes serrated. And unlike modern storks or herons, these weren't just for fish. Fossil evidence suggests some hunted land animals, plucking them from the ground and swallowing them whole. Their beaks worked like precision spears, fast, accurate, and deadly. But some, like Thalassodromeus, may have had massive head crests, used for display, species recognition, or possibly thermal regulation. And others, like Pterosaurs, had thousands of hair-like teeth to filter plankton, like a prehistoric flamingo. Not every pterosaur was a killer, but the giants, they were skyborne death. Chapter 6, Extinction, when the skies went silent. 66 million years ago, an asteroid struck the Earth. Ash blotted out the sun, temperatures plummeted, and ecosystems collapsed. Just like the dinosaurs, the giant pterosaurs vanished. All of them. The skies went quiet. Only birds, small feathered descendants of certain dinosaurs, survived. Why? Pterosaurs may have required more energy to stay airborne. They likely nested in open areas, more vulnerable to environmental changes, and their young may have taken longer to mature. So the giants died, and the sky changed forever. A sky that once held monsters. Today, when you look up and see a hawk, an eagle, or a crane soaring across the sky, remember, they are tiny echoes of a forgotten era. An era when the sky itself was dangerous, when shadows blotted out the sun, when monsters launched from the cliffs, glided over plains, and struck like lightning from above. They weren't myths. They weren't dragons. They were real, and they ruled the air. Call to action for engagement. If this video gave you chills, give it a like. It helps more people discover the lost monsters of our planet. Subscribe for more forgotten beasts, prehistoric secrets, and deep time journeys. And comment below. Would you rather face a T-Rex on land or a Quetzalcoatlus from above? Because one stalked with footsteps, but the other, you'd never hear it coming.